Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Esteemed Center Stage with Global Thought Leaders, a Right Source Global initiative. I'm Ajuna Sharawat, Chief Anchor and Editor at Global Thought Leaders, and I will be your host today during this Center Stage interview. Global Thought Leaders is a platform where industry titans can share their experiences, thoughts, ideas, and best practices with one another and future leaders. We hope to bring together this global community of distinguished individuals by conducting these center stage interviews. Great leadership lessons benefit everyone when we can identify, nurture, and apply tricks of the trade that have proven to be successful formulae for many. In a nutshell, we seek to distill these industry leaders' multi-decadal learnings and establish a knowledge-sharing community. Sreenadh Ambarkhana, an industry veteran, has joined us on the center stage today. Sreenadh has over 20 years of industry experience and is currently the head of governance, risk and controls, finance at DTAC. He has hands-on experience with billing, revenue assurance, fraud monitoring, and financial settlements. Sreenadh is responsible for updating, maintaining, and developing risk registers and mitigation actions for DTAC board and management meetings as the policy manager, risk ERM at DTAC. He also drives revenue assurance and fraud management toward efficiency and automation through use of AI and ML. He previously worked in various capacities for Aircel Limited, Bharti Airtel Limited, and Trans Cybernet India. With a finance background, he's also the chairman of the GSMA Asia Pacific Fraud and Security Group. Sreenadh, welcome to the center stage. Who have been your professional role models? Who has inspired you on this journey? And what have some of your key takeaways been?
I think, thanks for a nice introduction. It's very interesting question, to look back and then think, how the professional journey has been. We have always been tuned up to look at the forward or the future. But then, I think it's very interesting to take a steps back and then start introspecting and looking back your journey. Every individual that I've worked with, in some way or the other has influenced my professional personality. Probably when I started off, the early days of my career, I probably would have idolized someone in the corporate world to look up to and then become or achieve, reach what they were. But I think over, the last few years and then with the maturity coming in, I think it was the qualities, in different people, that stand out in their character is what I think started admiring and probably idolizing. When I started off, probably it was more, someone with a super confidence, a hard work and, people who could complete their work on time was probably something I looked up to. And as I started maturing, I think, I started realizing that these are things that come out of the qualities like, discipline, planning, and being objective, and the proper goal setting. But, having said that, the attributes that I started, over the recent times, is more towards the culture and the character that, I sometimes find it pretty difficult to find in the corporate world. I think something like a consistency, consistency in everything that you do, consistency in the way you do, consistency in how you do, which talks about the integrity and also the transparency are probably pretty high on my list at this point in time. I also believe, your team is a mirror image of what you display. So you get what you, display, and they start, probably aping you and then start becoming how you do it. For me, this, forms a very crux of my handling with the team. And, this integrity and the culture is pretty important. As somebody said, the highest level or the minimum, the highest level of culture or the integrity that you display is the minimum, is the maximum that you get. So the lowest level versus the highest. So I try to be consistent in what I do and ensure that I am at 100% in most of the time. My team also starts doing at least what I expect out of them, and they start looking at me as a mirror.
Wonderful. You always keep the focus in mind that your team is mirroring you and they get the right qualities to mirror. That's very nice. That's a very inspiring attitude.
Because probably that's how I started learning and then mirroring my leaders over a period of time, and then learned some of the culture and the values out of them.
Sreenath, what are some of the significant changes that have occurred around the world in your many years of experience as someone who has been in the industry and understands the nuances of governance, risk, compliance, and so on? And what are some of the changes you anticipate occurring in the industry in the near and distant future?
Majority of my work experience has been in the telecommunication. So I've seen the manual roaming to automated roaming, where the incoming calls were being charged pretty high, and then from an Indian perspective, the One India concept, where the roaming was completely abolished. But specifically in the corporate world, and moving into the GRC area, I think the changes that have brought, which have been quite significant, like from an in-house IT or to an outsource. I think it was in the early days when the top telecom operator moved completely its IT from an in-house to an outsourced, which looked quite radical at this point, at that point in time. That brought in, in terms of governance, related to the partners and the risks involved with the partners, managing the complete IT source. But then, now the outsourcing has become a mechanism, where, the most of the operators outsource their non-significant or non-business related, functions to the outsourced partner, and then they probably concentrate more on their core business. This has brought in, a significant change in terms of the governance related to the partner management, and also managing the risks associated with that. This further, is amplified, when we talk about, going digital, wherein we're talking about now the partners are not just the people who serve you, but then the partners are people whom you have to serve as well. The Internet of Things, that is thrown out. There is no one solution which suits everybody. So the customization requiring to each partner is something which is very, very important. This whole change in the customization requirements to serve the customers is again a new thing that probably is coming up pretty big I would say in some of the BOs that we were in. I think this has already come in. So where in one of the country, the IoT is big, now the entire billing and servicing of the electricity is completely done through IoT and with a partner in the telecommunication. So the partners are telecommunications and the the electricity board of the state is another partner. I think this partner management and their ecosystem will take a different level when we're talking about the industrialization of the IoT, and the governance around this partner management is going to be significantly important. There have been some changes. I've seen changes like centralization to a regionalization, decentralization, and then again a centralization. Also brings up a globalization with virtual workspaces, no more out of the office. So there is somebody who is always solving the problems for the customers. And I have worked in a environment where I was virtual, my team was virtual, uh, my managers were virtual, so we were working in completely different time zones. Also, how do we manage it? Is something that is significant. But the pandemic has taken it to a next level where, probably I think working from anywhere, working hybrid, I think is something which is probably going to stay for a long time. Uh, when the first time, the first wave, the pandemic has hit, I think the governance around the safety, the security, and the confidentiality of working from anywhere uh, is something which we actually struggled, and we had to come up with the guidelines, you know, the uh, the security requirements, of working from anywhere, and in our company, the call center was also working from home. So, it kind of throws up, the availability of the systems, and the security around it. I think, this complete, pandemic has changed the way we work, completely. The other significant change that I probably has seen is the social media. This has completely changed the usage patterns of the people. A few years ago, we were more looking at a voice. Now we're talking more about data. So we don't, no longer think about the voice, from a telecom perspective, but then the data changes that has come. So these data utilizations, the security around it, the controls around it, the risks around it, how anybody can actually go ahead and then fool a customer. I've seen the initial first wave of pandemic has resulted in some of the sudden increase in the frauds happening across the globe, both on the normal phishing kind of a custom frauds, and also some of the very very digital kind of frauds. I think this pandemic has made certain changes. I think that will probably accelerate these changes much faster. These are certain changes that I would look at it. And some of the changes I would probably looking at in the near future, or probably a little further up, is more looking at a data-driven risk management. The risk assessment, the key risk indicators. I think these are going to be more data-driven. Now we do a mix of data-driven and qualitative, but I think going forward we are talking more about data-driven kind of a risk management. The boundaries are getting blurred for businesses. We're talking about multinational, multicultural, businesses, where amplify the complications related to the compliances and the risks. Probably, we may not know each other, but we will be rating one another for on the trust, competence, and the ethical behavior that we are looking at. I think the pandemic has completely accelerated the digital journey. I'm probably looking at need for upskilling, to these changing needs coming up, in the next near future.
Thank you for the insight. With the advent of new technologies like AI, ML, blockchain, cloud, and IoT, how do you see the Industrial Revolution 4.0 impacting the industry?
Well, I think the advancement of technology is something which I really admire, and then I very welcome the changes in the the technological advances. I think something that comes pretty quick to my mind. Probably smart machines as co-workers is probably not too far away. We're working pretty closely with the robots. When I talk about the robots, I'm not talking about a physical robot, but a logical robots doing, work. That probably I started, some 20 years ago. now these are done completely by the robots. We no longer do that. We do more of the analytical kind of a work experience, work that we have been doing. What this technological advancement probably throw up is two things that very quick to my mind. One is the partner ecosystem, and the other one is the increase in the security. How does this probably in an industrial IoT or 4.0 is implemented? You start off, you understand where your starting position is, create a strategy, start small, create a friendly ecosystem, and then go about improving these processes. The focus will now move towards improving these processes. What does this bring? This brings a lot of automation, a lot of innovation. What does it also mean? That it is not just between the employee. It's not just about the technology, or it's not just about the processes. It also brings about significant impact on and the role on society and the workers. So there is going to be a deep collaboration between a man and a machine, going forward, or it could also be a collaboration between robo and robo. So these collaborative robots, probably known as cobos, man and machine working together, which also talk about new required skill sets, probably high upskilling of the people, and with this changes, I think you're also looking at significant impact on the jobs as well, and probably how the society will probably tackle this challenge as well. But this brings back again the focus on to the partnerships, the partner ecosystem, customization for the partners, a continuous efficiency towards the delivery, and also talk about the customer satisfaction and the quality of the customer satisfaction. So I think this talks about how the industrial 4.0 is going to change. It will also significantly impact the way we work, and also we look at the risk management and the compliances. We have seen the IoTs, the blockchains, bring in a significant or a lot of unstructured data. So when we have the unstructured data, there is a strong focus on how to manage this unstructured data and how to secure this. I'm not talking about only the data part. We're not talking only just about the networks or the data protection of the communication providers, but we're also talking about personal data protection. We're talking about some of the facilities, and also talking about the energy and the ecology. It also talks about how we are securing the physical security. A few years ago, when I from a finance, I moved into the security. I was probably the one who had least understanding of what the physical security is about. But after working in the security function and then coming back into finance again, I understand how the physical security impacts various aspects of the business. Talking about the security of the employees, the security of the workers, security of critical infrastructure, the security of some of the industrial assets, security of the assets like movable assets. How does all this bring in? So this brings back something very, very important, which we're talking about: the business continuity, risk management, and more importantly, I think from a cyber security, I would probably move into something called a cyber resilience.
Cyber resilience. Could you elaborate that more?
Okay, what is resilience? there are going to be instances where you will talk about, some or the other way that, you are impacted, by somebody. It is probably not possible, for a network, of a significant size where there is no, incidents that are happening. So, you always have people trying to attack the networks, trying to get into your network. But then, it is not about, whether you are attacked and then you're, you have an impact, but it is all about, how quickly and efficiently you've been able to come back and then establish, your business back to where it was or much better than it. So I think that is where, we talk about the resilience of the business and the security as well.
Okay, thank you. Sreenadh, in your opinion, how do different departments and their heads collaborate to create and implement functions and initiatives for better organizational governance?
Okay, and I think that's something, which we keep working on. As and when you start going into a corporate, the board meetings and the audit committee meetings, I think there is a significant collaboration that you have to establish with almost all the aspect, all the other functions. But let's go back to and understand what is a corporate governance. For some, corporate governance is all about legal structures. For some, it's all about business controls, checks and balances. For probably somebody in a finance will be talking more about the segregation of duties, checks and balances. How are the financial controls working in? But I think it is the way the business is managed and led. So so this quickly brings back, what is this all about? So this is all about the leadership strategy and the culture. So the way the business functions and how the leadership is taking the organization forward, clear vision and the mission, and how about the performance, looking at the performance, whether the performance is, when I talk about performance, it's not about what we do. It's also about how we do as well. Risk, which is at the center of it. I think that's probably the heart. The risk management, the risk, assessment, and the capabilities that we talk about. And management information and the controls. So we're talking about how the controls are established, how the management is informed about it, and how the information flow related to these controls are going about. And finally, it's about the transparency and reporting. So, when I summarize this, it's more about how the tone from the top, how the leadership is performing and conducting itself. As I said, the minimum that a leader, exhibits is the maximum that the organization is going to. So it talks about consistency, of performance and also behavioral traits of the leadership. And also, more important is the consistent communication, both internal and external. It talks about how the culture of the organization is, how we are doing it, and more important, is what, you're looking at, do we have an organization structure which is free of silos and a collective responsibility? So if we are talking about certain things like the internal control, we're talking about the internal control, both operational controls, the internal controls of, which are proactive controls and the detective controls. So all these form a collective responsibility when towards the business and its shareholders. The performance measures, again, monitoring and recognizing the right behavioral and also aspects of it. And rewarding, when the behavior is right, and incentivizing the performance. The more important is, you also look at, resisting the temptation to behave inappropriately even when some of the competitors are doing so. I always get this question that if the competition is not doing it, why should we follow these kind of controls or the governance related to these fraud measures or things. But I think it's all about the way we do it, and how we do it. It brings a significant value in terms of the culture, and also it also talks about what the organization stands for.
Sreenath, in your multi-decadal experience, what were the top three challenges you faced in your professional journey and how did you overcome them?
In where I probably look back, in some of my experience, and the challenges have been different at different stages of my career. When I started my career, I am probably more focusing on the work at hand. Relatively, that is probably the biggest challenge, at that point in time. But as I start maturing, I'm always looking at, into that role. I always looked at, how do I be more efficient and simplify the processes. But when you start leading and managing the team, the kind of challenges become completely different. The typical challenges, of a new team leader would be a conflict. How do I inspire the team? If you're taking over a team that is, and that has been working with you, how do I inspire them that you are actually not somebody as a boss, but more as a person who are there to inspire and get better out of them. And obviously some of the pressures that come with this team management, and the complications change when you have a team that you're leading functionally, but administratively are not reporting to you. When I was working in a company, when I was working in Airtel, as the corporate office, or probably the mobility office, we used to call it, there were team of 23 people working in different, circles, but they were functionally reporting to me, in sense that, I am responsible for the entire vertical, but they don't administratively report to you. So the challenges, are, then become more interesting, which is where you talk about how do you manage these people and also manage their managers as well. So I think, getting your things done while being nice and softer, but also making sure that, you get your things done, as per the delivery. I think that's something which is quite unique in those kind of businesses where you have people spread out across different locations, and they don't report to you administratively. It also changes, when you start working in a multicultural, and a multinational, organization. I have been working from Bangkok, but the team has been sitting either in Norway and Serbia or Bulgaria, and then it becomes so difficult or different that these multicultures, these cultures have different ways of handling things. How they are done versus how they should be done, is completely different. And then you work in a country which is completely new to you, and then the people do not understand how the corporate culture works. Take an instance like when I was in Myanmar, I think probably the biggest company at that point in time that went into there was the company that I was working in. So you're getting people who are raw, who do not understand how the corporate culture works, how people work, what work is all about. So the telecom knowledge or the telecom experience was something completely new. You pick up people, you have to train them, you have to make them understand, you have to tell them how each thing has to be done. I think these are completely different kind of challenges. Working in a country which is completely different from the culture that you belong to, and the culture that goes with them is completely different. You know, currently in my team, I have about 20-25% of the people who do not understand English, but then you have to communicate to them, you have to talk to them, you have to make them understand what your standpoint is, and as a leader you're expected to deliver and also get your work done from these people. So it kind of becomes challenging. So as I mentioned, so the challenges keep changing from time to time. It is not the same, what it was, when you are an individual contributor to a lead, with a multiple teams in with you, and it only amplifies the culture and also the the national differences as well. What did I understand, in this, conversation or in this discussion was that, or probably when I was reflecting upon, was that, what is it that changed, over a period of time, in managing this team. One is, as I mentioned, people look at you, they mirror, your personality, your behavior, and your culture. So I think that is something which is very important. My manager, who was probably based in Norway, was so transparent with me, and I used to tell him that if I am 50% as transparent as you, I think, I would have done wonderful in terms of my transparency. I think that is something which I've learned from him, and the transparent communication and the honest communication, is something which is very important, when you handle a team which is multicultural and multinational team. Uh, these kind of culture of honesty and transparency, I think builds a trust on me, and it believes that I'm trying to do the best for the team, and then the team will actually start trusting me, and when they know that I trust them for the work to be managed, and and the transparency that, with which I communicate to them. I think this is something which I've learned over the last few years, that I've been working in multicultural and multinational uh, you know organization or a team setup.
Sreenath, as a corporate governance expert, we'd like to hear your thoughts on how this will help you and others like you deal with board challenges in the future.
Okay, I think the corporate governance is more about the way the company is led, and the company is leading its business as well. So it's more about the culture built within the organization, and about the way it manages its business, and also the way the leadership leads the organization. For me, the culture cannot be built over a period, or overnight, but it takes time to build this culture. But what is very important is that the trust to the people of the organization, and it has to be brought into the the DNA of the people, that we do and we also want to do, doing business in a right way is probably the most important way. There would be pressures from external sources. It can be competition, it can be regulatory, asking pushing the organization away from this kind of a culture. But then I think it has to be very clear that if the people believe it, I think they will stick to it. And this right behavior and right culture, if it is brought and believed by everybody in the organization, I think it will benefit all the functions. It will lead to an a significant enhancement enhancement in the performance. With the culture and the transparency, it will bring about a very efficient decision making. It will also bring in a competitive advantage, where some of the organizations are respected more than the other organizations. It's probably not because of just its numbers, but also the way they conduct and the way they do the behavior. It also brings in a very important aspect, which is the stakeholder confidence. It can be your partners, it can be your shareholders, or it can be anybody associated with the organization. It brings a kind of confidence into the organization and about the organization, that they do things right way, but they do things in an efficient way. Uh, it also brings significant cost efficiencies. I've known organizations which have not been pretty good in the way they handle, or the way they culture is, and I've seen this leading into some of the cost increases. And obviously it brings significant market value in terms of branding. The brand image goes up. It brings that reputation. And obviously the corporate governance brings in a lot of transparency and compliance to not just the for the legal and the regulatory, but it also brings in compliance in every other way, because either we do it in the right way or we don't do it. It's not just the business for the sake of doing the business, but doing it in the right way. It also, it has a significant responsibility towards a society, when it does the things in the right way.
Sreenadh, we have been building the Global Thought Leaders community for cross-pollination of knowledge and a community of independent directors for having a better corporate governance in the country. What are your thoughts about these initiatives?
Well, I think I would mention it as a people-centered approach. Wherein it is kind of motivating and doing a balancing of personal and group interests. It also talks about how it is aligning the people for a common goal, with the people coming from a diverse background. Some of them coming from sales, some of them coming from finance, people coming from IT. I think this is a very people-centered approach that I like about it. And some of the initiative where we have the workshops with the experienced people who have been on the board. I think it's all about doing the right thing and the consistent way it should be done. I think over a period, this will create a network of people who would want to make a difference in the right and consistent way. It would also talk about helping each other for a self better or an organizational and in a larger sense towards the society as well. I'm sure this network, which probably will always be there, where some of us can fall back, seek support or help when in dilemmas, when some of us are sitting in the boardrooms and seek support for the right answers. I'm sure in the real world it could be slightly different from the simulated collective work that we do, but I'm sure this organization and the network will be of a great support when you need some help, or when you are looking for right answers. To put it, I think it is a great learning experience. It is aligning people from to a common goal for people coming from different backgrounds. And I think the network that it would create, I think, is probably something which will be a treasure in the future.
Thank you, Sreenadh, for this valuable feedback. It's very inspiring for us to learn. And we'll continue our initiative towards global thought leaders like this. Sreenadh, this was a very enriching conversation with you. I'm confident that your insights will inspire the next generation of leaders. We wish you all the best of luck in your future endeavors. Thank you for joining us today on the call with Global Thought Leaders. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, Arjuna. I think this was some I spent some time introspecting or probably looking back into the future. I think it was very nice to hear you talking about my background. For a moment I was wondering if it was me or someone else that you're talking about, but it was nice talking to you, and I am hope I could inspire some people with some of my insights. I don't want to inspire people to look at me, but I wanted people to inspire looking at the character and the beliefs.
Such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you, Sreenadh.